Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna try recording from sitting on my couch this time. I want to see if I'm more comfortable, if I just kind of relax more when I'm doing these. Not that I'm not relaxed. Sometimes I get like way too excited, if anything. Oh, yeah, that feels really nice. I gotta do this more often when I'm recording off this computer. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about the Jungle Book. I'm going to make some comparisons from what I remember with the remake. It's kind of weird when it comes to the remake, actually, which I don't know if I'll eventually rewatch that as well, because it was the only one with the live action remakes where I actually watched that first, and then I watched the original movie. And that was because when I watched the remake, I didn't even know, like, it was a remake of anything. I didn't know there was a Disney Jungle Book movie at all. I just didn't know it existed. So I loved the remake, and then I watched the original and I was like, "Oh, this is way better." And I think I only liked the remake because, I didn't have any other context for, like Disney Jungle Book. I can't say with the Jungle Book cuz it's originally a book, and I haven't read it myself, but I've heard that the Disney movie, the Disney adaptation is like a lot different. I don't know if I'll eventually read it, maybe. But yeah, I really like this movie. This is actually only my second time seeing it. And I've really liked it both times. I think my opinion of it has changed though. I think I like it more on like rewatches than I do with my original viewing, because when I originally watched it, it's like I was absorbed, but I was so focused on the plot and like, oh, it was Mowgli and I have to go to the man village after all. And and then I felt like it was really slow. It is a very slow movie, and then as I'm watching it this time, I feel like I have more appreciation. I feel like I can kind of chill out to it, basically. Like, since I know what's going to happen in the end, not that I have like every line memorized or anything, I think it just makes it easier to watch and rewatches. This is like a very, very chill movie. In fact, hold on, I have some notes about that actually. I don't remember. I wrote some notes just kind of in general about sort of the vibe. Oh, okay, I found it. I found my two little paragraphs. I'm gonna just read those first. Um, I actually really like the slow pace of the movie. It kind of gives me a. I was trying to think of this like the whole time I was watching. It kind of gives the vibe of like the Disney Alice in Wonderland, but not the 2010 one, but like the animated one from like the 50s or something. I know it's from like either the 50s or 60s, where it's kind of more about the journey than the destination. Like it's kind of funny when you watch this on rewatches, or at least how it was for me, where it doesn't really matter in a sense of like whether Mowgli um actually makes it to the man village or if he decides to stay in the jungle. It's like Alice in Wonderland, where it's more of like this kid is in this weird environment. I mean, for Mowgli it's somewhere where he like grew up. Um but it's kind of like meeting all of these weird characters for the first time, or just meeting them in general. It's more about the characters than anything else. I feel like even though there is a goal of like Bagheera and eventually Baloo as well are trying to get Mowgli to the man village, there is like a sort of plot with that. There isn't really anything else going on. It's more of just like these things keep happening and these people he meets, rather than like more of a story, I guess. Um, and it makes it really chill, honestly. I could just this is like one of the Disney movies I feel like I could describe as a comfort movie. I feel like if I compared it to Alice in Wonderland, from what I remember, even though that's a movie I also really like, remember I even asked for it for Christmas as a kid. I feel like they give me opposite vibes, where Jungle Book is like very relaxed and chill, and all of the characters in it for the most part are just kind of doing their thing, and they're chill, and Mowgli's very relaxed as a protagonist as well. And then with Alice in Wonderland, I've always found like kind of a little anxiety inducing in a way, of like Alice, being around all these weird characters, but she can't take any of it seriously, and it like keeps frustrating her of having to deal with all these people that don't make sense. And the characters in that movie are fun, but I feel like some of the locations and stuff have this sort of kind of weird vibe to them. If I ever do a review of it, which I can, I have that one on DVD. Um, you'll hear me talk about it more, but I feel like the sort of not really having a plot sense in it being about the characters. It's kind of a comparison I could make with both movies. But yeah, this one on the other hand is definitely a comfort movie. I don't know if this is like the Disney comfort movie for me. Um, so far, yeah, it's it's like I've watched like a ton of Disney movies, but I'm always kind of forgetting about them until I do any rewatch. It's kind of like how I felt with The Lion King. But yeah, I like that this one's about the characters. They're all really fun. And there's so many like well known voice actors in here and stuff. It's crazy, honestly. I didn't even realize until I was looking at Letterboxd and I was like, wait, why do some of them sound familiar? How many of them are in like a lot of the voice actors are in a lot of the same like older Disney movies, especially with like Alice in Wonderland or not Robin Hood, but oh, there's a specific one I'm forgetting. Like I was listening to Baloo, and the last one I'd watched was Robin Hood, and it took me like a while into the movie to realize, oh, it's literally the same voice actor doing kind of the same voice for these like two bear characters. I feel like to the point where even though out of the two I prefer Baloo, he's one of my favorite characters in this movie. I feel like him and Little John, if I watch Jungle Book and um, Robin Hood too closely, kind of like they blur to me a little bit. Um, though I know I said that this one's really chill and I like the slow pacing. That being said, there's some stuff in this movie that just goes for a bit too long. That's probably a complaint that people have about like the pacing really. Um, like the scene with the elephant company that when they're first introduced, I feel like that goes on for too long. Though I do like those characters and the elephants hang out with Mowgli for a bit. I liked the like little kid elephant, I guess I can refer to him as, that ends up wanting to help Mowgli later on. Okay, let me go back to the beginning of my notes. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But yeah, it's like I love the slow pacing, but I also see, and it makes the movie feel very relaxed and just these encounters with these characters. But I also totally get why if people find this movie like boring or something. Okay, so starting with the beginning of my notes, I don't remember if I actually watched the opening credits last time I'd seen this movie. Um, I mean, now I know how it ends. I know that there's another human character besides Mowgli. I didn't even realize she didn't have like a name, like even officially or anything. At least according to this movie, because she just have lines. I mean, she has a song, and that's about it. Um, but yeah, I noticed this time she doesn't even have a name in the opening credits. She's literally just labeled as the girl, which makes me a little curious because I know there's at least one sequel to this movie, um, or it's called The Jungle Book 2. I have no idea when it was made and I've never seen it, but the girl is on the cover. On one hand, I'm almost happy that that movie exists, of like, oh, cool, we get more adventures with these people and Mowgli gets to be the main character. But on the other hand, it's very iffy when it comes to Disney sequels. Some of them, and it's all a matter of opinion, are really cool, and some of them are just kind of bad or meh. So I'm a little curious on Jungle Book 2. I don't, I don't know if I'll check that out someday or whatever. But I have other Disney movies I need to talk about, so not this time. I'll save it for like another visit to my aunt's house or something. I actually don't even know if it's like on Disney Plus. Anyway, yeah, opening credits. I didn't know the Sherman brothers. I think they're brothers. I recognize the names at least. I think they're the ones that did the music for Mary Poppins. Now I have to double check that. Hold on. I'm not sitting at the computer chair, but I'm reading my notes off my phone. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, they did the music for Mary Poppins. I love the movie Mary Poppins. I got that one on DVD too, so I gotta watch that at some point. Yeah, they did. They did the music for this, and I feel like that explains a lot because this movie. I mean, there are just so many freaking Disney songs and so many that are really catchy. um, One of my favorites of all times is in this movie, so there's like two that probably the two most well known songs are also two of my favorites. So I'm like, okay, I feel like that explains a lot with them doing the songs and stuff. You know, baby Mowgli is so lucky he was found by like talking sentient animals instead of getting like straight up eaten. And I like that Bagheera is the narrator. I think he's a pretty cool character, and that he, doesn't eat Mowgli or anything. He just takes him to the wolves, and the wolves end up raising him. It's just funny to me out of all things. I mean, probably also because I don't really know much about animals, of like taking this baby to wolves. I feel like, I mean, probably all the animals in the jungle are dangerous, but like, I feel like wolves would I'm assuming they'd probably be the ones that would eat him or something. But then again, there is that like phrase of like raised by wolves, so maybe not. I feel like if anything, maybe he would have gone to like, I don't know, the monkeys or something. Um, I had gotten some of the things I said earlier wrong when I was thinking of like Disney movies from the 70s. I think in my head I was thinking of like, it was actually Disney movies in the 60s of like similar art style. Like this one has a similar art style a little bit to like Robin Hood, of being like kind of sketchy. But the other ones I was thinking of, but I couldn't remember what year, were like, this one, Sword in the Stone, 101 Dalmatians. I didn't realize until I was trying to Google a list of like Disney movies by decades that all of those, except for Robin Hood, because I think that's like 70s or something, are from like the 60s. So yeah, I got my decades wrong with what I was talking about earlier. My bad on that. I feel like some of the Disney movies from like the 60s and the 70s kind of just blur in my head a little bit. Um, and it's nice that Bagheera ends up being friends with Mowgli. I couldn't remember, like, I remembered him as a character, but I didn't remember if it was like he suddenly comes back into Mowgli's life once Mowgli needs to go in the man village. But no, they're like already friends and stuff, where Bagheera's trying to take Mowgli to the man village, and then Mowgli gets upset about it. He's like, "Oh, aren't we going home?" And Bagheera's like, "Nope, we're gonna go somewhere else today. We're not going back home." Um, and I remembered about Shere Khan. I think he's a pretty cool villain. I have some notes about him later. Um, I forgot the reason he's like specifically wanted to kill Mowgli was, like Mowgli's a kid now, but he'll eventually become an adult, and it's described as like he'll just become like another hunter with the gun. I find it kind of funny in a way. I mean, I think that's probably part of the reason the characters are trying so hard to get Mowgli to the man village, is so he won't be eaten by a tiger. But at the same time, Shere Khan is like worried about like fire and killing Mowgli before he has the chance to grow up and do anything. And but like the whole Mowgli, like, is stated in the movie of like not knowing how to make fire, and it's not like he has access to guns and things. He doesn't have access to all the things that um Shere Khan's afraid of. And I know it's like, oh, okay, he can like grow up and get those things, but if he stays in the jungle like he wants to, wouldn't it be that he'd never have access to any of those things? He wouldn't really be like a threat or anything. He'd just be like this random adult that lives in the jungle. So if anything, it's like almost better for him to stay in the jungle in that sense. But I also get the thing of taking him to the man village of like, he needs to be amongst other humans, and then if he's there, there's like, I mean, of course, tiger like Shere Khan could absolutely invade the village or whatever, but at least he's like more protected. So I sort of get both reasons, but then I was also just kind of thinking about that as I was watching the movie of like, there is a debate of him being in the jungle, but I also get it because like the character Mowgli wants to stay so badly, but he's constantly getting in dangerous situations and can't really defend himself. Not just because he's like small and stuff, but I mean, unless it eventually ended up going the Tarzan route or something where he can like absolutely fight or whatever. But he's like tiny in this. He's a child, so he'd get killed so many times this movie if there wasn't characters protecting him. Like, I find it really funny that Bagheera, like, they're starting their journey and wants Mowgli to be safe, and he puts him up in a tree, and they go to spend the night in a tree, and then like literally a minute later, Kaa ends up showing up. And I know that Sterling Holloway, I know he's played other like animated characters and other Disney characters, though I mostly always just think of Kaa, the Cheshire Cat, and Winnie the Pooh. And even with all three of those characters, even in this movie, I can only just hear Winnie the Pooh. I don't know if that's like his natural voice. I'm kind of curious about that. Because he kind of does sound similar for all three characters. I mean, except with Kaa, he it's like the emphasizing of the S words doing the like sound because it's a snake. but even with that, I close my eyes and I only just imagine Winnie the Pooh. I wonder if people have animated some of his lines for Pooh. I mean, not some of his lines for Pooh, but animated Pooh, but like with some of the other lines for characters he's had. With some of the lines from this movie, I think it would be kind of funny about like trying to hypnotize someone to eat them. Um, and it's kind of interesting thinking about his character here and thinking about the character Ka in the remake as well. Where here it's like it's the Winnie the Pooh voice, so it's like Ka at one point is like singing to Mowgli and stuff and trying to hypnotize him, and it's like a kind of voice that I always think of as like comforting to listen to, like being kind of gently lulled to sleep. And then for some reason, Ka is voiced in the remake by Scarlett Johansson, which gives it like the hypnosis, but everything with the song and stuff like a completely different tone. It's crazy. Um, but I like that Ka does show up at least like two times. Which so I have some more notes about him later actually with the second time where he's given like a little more screen time. Because I do like that characters you meet them towards the beginning and then they come back later, like the elephants as well. I like I noticed with the instrumentals because there's a lot of just instrumental music in this. A lot of it is flutes. I thought that was really cool. Makes everything kind of sound makes the jungle feel like a more kind of mysterious place. So you end up getting introduced to Baloo after a while. He's probably one of my favorite characters in this. He's such a chill guy. I don't remember what he sounds like in the remake. I know he's voiced by Bill Murray. But Bill Murray, to me, I've seen him in like a ton of different not foods, I'm sorry. A ton of different films. I feel like no matter his age, he always sounds kind of like almost a little depressed, grumpy, sarcastic with a lot of the characters he plays. I think that's just his voice. But then, especially as he gets older, he really starts to sound old. So I don't really remember what he sounds like as Baloo, but I thought that was kind of a weird choice. Because Baloo, to me, at least with this movie specifically, gives kind of like a fun uncle vibe. He's just a goober. He just wants to have a good time, honestly. But I love his interactions with Mowgli, where he basically wants to like adopt him as a son, but Bagheera eventually convinces him to like help him take Mowgli to the man village and everything. And then you get Bare Necessities. I love that song so much. It's easily in my at least top 10 favorite Disney songs. I don't know if it's in my top 5. I don't know what my top 5 is, but probably it's so catchy and so happy sounding as well. I feel like it has like a similar vibe to Hakuna Matata, like kind of lyrically of like needing to kind of chill out. I mean, that's not exactly Bare Necessities, but I feel like they have a similar vibe. But out of the two of them, I've always preferred this one. This song, I swear, like every time I hear it in like, because sometimes I hear it in commercials, or the two times I've watched this movie or the remake or whatever, um, it'll get stuck in my head the rest of the day. I'm actually surprised because I was gonna record this video earlier, but then I didn't have enough time and I had to leave the house. I'm surprised when I left my house it wasn't still stuck in my head, honestly, because I was actually listening to it again, even though it's been a bit since I've watched the movie. I wanted to listen to the song again before I did the review, and that was a mistake. Because even right now, it's kind of just going in my head a little bit. Um, and then you end up meeting King Louie. I really like his voice actor as well, Louis Prima. Because I know he's a musician. I know he's a singer. I've listened to some of his other songs. But I think it's really cool. He voices this character, and then he gets a song, and the song is "I Want to Be Like You," and that's probably I'm assuming that one and uh, Bare Necessities. I mean, they're like the two big songs from this movie. They're easily two of my favorites. I'm glad they got like a bunch of people that can like sing for this movie. Um, it's just funny because like the way the character is like kind of voiced and played in this movie, he's just like a chill dude, but he also is like kind of trying to manipulate Mowgli a little bit. But I like that he's normal. He's just like an orangutan that's in charge of all these other monkeys. He lives in these abandoned temples or whatever, or like ruins and stuff, and that's it. He's just a normal orangutan. It's still wild to me that for the remake, that not only is he like huge for some reason, I read somewhere he's based on like an actual type of orangutan where he's like ridiculously large, but he's also voiced by Christopher Walken. I like Christopher Walken. He's really cool. And I don't remember what his performance is. Man, this is why I need to watch the remake, because I keep trying to remember the voice performances and I'm like trying to compare them in my head. Um, but I feel like that's kind of a weird decision. It's also weird seeing him. You know how the remake is like every animal is hyper realistic and stuff. It's so wild compared to like how expressive the characters are in this movie, especially with King Louie, with like a lot of the faces he makes and stuff, and his movements. Like out of all the, okay, he's one of two of the characters in this that I absolutely adore. Like the animation for everyone's animated like pretty good and stuff. Um, but with King Louie, it's like the way he moves around and like balances his arms. It's so fluid. You can't do that if you're like 10 feet tall or whatever. And then I like when Baloo and Bagheera they're forced to rescue Mowgli. I like that they're basically just like his two dads and stuff. Um, which is why it's funny to me where they have a serious conversation that's also seen I like, of like Bagheera trying to convince Baloo about like taking Mowgli to the man village. I think he starts his talk with like, "You wouldn't marry a panther, would you?" Of like trying to say of like why Mowgli needs to be around other humans, and then Baloo ends up using that line later when he's trying to take Mowgli there and stuff. I wish they could have. I'm glad that Mowgli does go to the man village at the end. I have more notes about that later. But there's a part of me, especially when I first watched the movie, because Baloo and Bagheera end up sort of becoming friends anyway, and they're like together at the end and stuff of walking back to the jungle. I kind of wish they could have just raised Mowgli together in the jungle. I feel like that would have been cool, but no, he's got to go to the man village and stuff. Like they both care about him a lot. Where they're like, okay, he's gonna be like better there and stuff. And I love that for Baloo, whenever he's hearing songs going on in the movie, like especially during "I Want to Be Like You," he gets like really into like dancing into it and stuff. There's a lot of dancing in this movie. I love when he's like pretending to be one of the monkeys and he's with King Louie and they're like dancing together and they're getting like super into the song and everything, and it's really fun. Like Bagheera's trying to just rescue Mowgli and everyone's just grooving. It's great. They're just grooving and dancing and having a good time. That's the thing with this movie too. It's like a lot of the characters are really kind of chill. Not all of them. Like Ka definitely isn't, but even like Shere Khan. Oh wait, where is he in my notes actually? It kind of takes a while to get there. Okay. Um, the part when Mowgli, like after they end up rescuing him and he's with Baloo and Baloo like needs to tell him of like, hey, we need to go to the man village. That scene's always kind of sad to me, where Mowgli is like so happy to be with Baloo, even calls him like Papa Bear, and Baloo has to tell him like, okay, I need to take you to this village. I know I promised you I would, and it's like kind of a hard scene, honestly, because Mowgli cares about him so much. It's kind of sad. Um, when Shere Khan ends up getting introduced, um, he's hunting a deer, and the deer, it could have just been the eyes or it being a Disney deer, kind of reminded me of like Bambi's mom. I know timeline wise I don't think that would work. Actually, I don't even know what year Bambi takes place in, never mind, but like I think it was just the eyes, they looked really similar and it like threw me off for a second. But the deer does not end up getting killed, because that ends up getting interrupted. And I like with Shere Khan, it's kind of funny to me where he doesn't even really know anything about Mowgli originally. He's just kind of wandering around. He overhears Bagheera telling the elephants, he's like trying to ask them for help of like, hey, Mowgli is running around in the jungle and he's lost and he's alone. And Shere Khan's like so excited, just eavesdropping of like, this is gonna be like the easiest hunt in the world for him, basically. That it's like dropping food on a silver plate, like, you know, he doesn't even have to do anything, and no one knows where Mowgli is. I like the elephant characters. You get like a little bit more of them at this point in the story. I like the I don't remember what their names are, but the mom elephant, where she's telling her husband, who's like the leader of the herd, like, you better help find Mowgli. What if it was our son out there? Because they have like a really young son. And she's like, you better help him, or I'm gonna take over your position of leading the herd. She's just kind of funny. Um, and then the baby elephant's really cute, where he's like, hey, Pop, Mowgli's my friend. He's gonna get hurt if we leave him out there all alone. We gotta go help him. And the dad elephant's like, okay, son, we're gonna go help your friend or whatever. Um, the elephants don't end up finding Mowgli, though. I don't think you see them for like the rest of the movie. And then you get more stuff with Ka. Animation wise, like, he's the other character that's my favorite, where for him basically just being a long noodle, and I know I talked about this with like Hiss from uh Robin Hood, and even though that movie was made like after this one, I feel like here they get into the really cool snake animation stuff like a bit more. Um, for being just like a long noodle, they do some fun stuff with this guy. Like during Ka's like song and stuff, Mowgli ends up walking on top of him like stairs or spinning around like a hamster wheel and whatever. I love the parts. One of my favorite parts of the movie, because it's just really funny, where Shere Khan shows up while Mowgli's trapped in like he's already hypnotized and whatever, and he's just in the tree and like Ka's coils or whatever, and Ka's tail is like hanging off the tree at the bottom, and Shere Khan goes to pull it, and I love that it just makes a doorbell noise. That's so goofy. And the way Shere Khan just sits there and then pulls the tail, or just the way he sits, because tigers and lions and stuff are basically like big cats, reminds me of like house cats being mischievous. Um, like, I have expected when Ka's tail was pulled, he was gonna like scream in pain or something, and instead it's just a doorbell noise, and it threw me off so hard. And then they end up having this really long scene where Shere Khan is like trying to get Ka to give up Mowgli, and can like hear Mowgli up there, and like is like 90% sure that Mowgli's there, and Ka has to be careful about it and whatever. And Shere Khan showing up like unintentionally actually saves Mowgli by giving him a chance to escape anyway, so I find that kind of funny. And then Mowgli ends up running away, and he ends up meeting these vulture characters. And I forgot about the vulture characters, but if I didn't, then I would have absolutely remembered that this movie was from the 60s, from like the late 60s, because they got characters based on the Beatles. There's like four vulture characters. You can even tell which one's supposed to be Ringo. It was to the point where I half expected them at one point when they're telling Mowgli of like, everyone needs friends. You don't even have any friends. I half expected them to start singing what is it? A Little Help from My Friends. I do like the song that they actually sing though. And I just think it's cool that Mowgli is in this like dry, dead area of the jungle, and he finds vultures. And normally in like animated movies and stuff, vultures, are like really scary, and they're like picking off your corpse or whatever and stuff like that. But in this movie, they're like some of the nicest people in the jungle, and they sing Mowgli a little song to cheer him up. And I like that Shere Khan shows up at the end, and rather than interrupting them, he finishes the song. And then Mowgli, this is like Mowgli's first encounter with Shere Khan actually, and I like that Mowgli, even though he's been told by several characters of like, hey, there's a tiger that's like wanting to kill you and stuff, Mowgli's not afraid in the slightest. And like literally every other animal in the jungle, whether it's like bears and vultures and snakes, which are all like pretty dangerous animals anyway in their own right, are like terrified of this tiger, and Mowgli isn't. And Shere Khan, he's just so fun to watch in this movie. He's like really laid back because he knows that everyone's afraid of him and he can get away with anything. And he's like really smug too when talking to people. And it's crazy because like he's just like a very chill, like any of the other like talking sentient animals in this movie, and they're all except for Ka. I think they're all like, and some of the elephants, they're all like pretty laid back. And then once he starts chasing Mowgli, it reminds you of like, oh right, that's a fucking tiger. He's gonna rip this kid's to shreds. And Mowgli, of course, at that point does realize he's like actually genuinely in danger. So where he's like running away, there's like a part where he's like beating Shere Khan in the head with a stick or something. But I like that Mowgli's new friends end up helping him, and Mowgli ends up getting so lucky of like being able to survive a tiger attack where lightning just so happens to strike the area he's near and it causes a fire. And Mowgli lights a stick and ties it to Shere Khan's tail, and it freaks him out, and he runs away. And you actually like never see him again for the rest of the movie. Um, but yeah, Mowgli got so lucky because he doesn't know how to make fire. Um, because I didn't remember if they actually killed off Shere Khan in this movie or not, but he ends up running away, which just makes me a little curious if he's gonna be like. I don't even know if the sequel movie would have like a villain or anything. I gotta look up like a plot synopsis or something later on. I do think it's interesting. I also forgot about it as well that they do this bit at the end where you're supposed to think that Baloo is dead, and then of course he's not. And I like when Bagheera is giving Mowgli's whole little speech about how Baloo was such a courageous person, and Baloo we already see is awake, and he's like purposely trying to like play dead so he can hear what the rest of the speech is. And then it's a little sad. I remember this part made me so mad when I originally watched the movie, where Baloo, like they've defeated the tiger. I mean, Mowgli, Kaa will probably try to kill Mowgli on sight or something next time he sees him. But like for the most part, Mowgli's befriended like most of the animals in the jungle, or at least of the ones we've seen. He's at least in no danger of a tiger, so he's not in like immediate danger. And Baloo is like just straight up ready to like adopt Mowgli as his son, pretty much. And Baloo even says like nothing will come between us again, and then like right afterwards Mowgli sees the girl, and it's like Mowgli can stay in the jungle now. He's defeated Shere Khan and stuff. It feels like the characters almost forgot about taking him to Man Village. It's just they happen to stumble to it basically at the end, and then Mowgli sees this girl and is like immediately interested. It's funny to me because he doesn't give a shit about the village where he points at the girl or something like that, and he's like, "What's that?" And one of the characters is like, "Oh, that's the Man Village," and he's like, "No, no, not that," because he's never seen another human being in his life. Um, but I find that really funny. He doesn't give a shit about the village. He's just like, "Oh, there's a pretty girl here," and she does have a really pretty voice. She has like this little song as she's like getting water in a jug and stuff, and she's like totally interested in Mowgli as well. I completely forgot about that, where she purposely drops the jug of water and Mowgli tries to hand it back to her and she doesn't take it because she's trying to get him to like follow her into the village, and he does. um I love that he gives, like, the last time we see Mowgli in the movie, he gives this really dopey smile and just kind of shrugs at his friends. Like, at first he isn't sure if he wants to go, and Baloo's like, no, come back, and Bagheera's like, no, go on, go on. And Mowgli just gives this little shrug of, like, hey, what can I do, when he decides to go. I think now that I've rewatched it, I'm okay with it as an ending. I think it's probably better for Mowgli to end up in the village anyway. And it does make me happy that there is the existence of a sequel, which it does have the pictures of some of the animals and stuff in the front cover, because that does mean that he eventually gets to go back to the jungle and like hang out. I mean, there's nothing stopping him. Like the movie does treat it in here as like it's a permanent goodbye and everything. Um, but I mean, the jungle's literally right on his like front doorsteps, basically, of this village. And I mean, the characters that we see have to leave the village sometimes anyway. Like the girl has to go out there and get water, so there's nothing stopping him from going back and like paying a visit. But the movie does treat it as like a he's not coming back. I think it's more of a thing of would he want to or anything? He's probably gonna have like a whole life in the village. But at least me knowing the existence of a sequel means it's not a permanent goodbye. I think that's why I was really bummed the first time I watched. I think because, now he's safe and now he's like ready to go to the Man Village, but also, the movie is treating it as such a permanent goodbye. I felt bad for the characters. And I actually really like that Mowgli decides on his own that he wants to go to the village. I mean, it does make me wonder, if they got there and the girl hadn't shown up and it was just the village, would Mowgli want to even go in at all? I guess probably not, given his reaction. But yeah, I'm glad they don't have to force him at the end. He just decides to go. And then Baloo's sad, but I like that at least he seems to be friends with Bagheera now. And the movie ending with the two of them like literally like walking into the sunset and singing Bare Necessities is nice. Where like Baloo's bummed at first and then he's like, okay, we gotta go back to where we go. Like it still ends on like a happy note in that sense. And plus, Bare Necessities is such a good song that I'm perfectly happy that the movie ends on that. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this. I really like this movie. I feel like it's gonna actually be one of those, which I feel like I don't get to say much for a lot of movies, where it's gonna be more enjoyable on rewatches than anything else, because it's so chill. I mean, I described Robin Hood in that way as well, being really chill, but this one feels more chill. I think because there's like less of a plot basically, and it's just hanging out with all these really fun characters, and the songs are really good. I think the songs are probably like the strongest things from this movie, honestly, but I just really like the whole vibe of it. I don't really know how to explain it. I just think it's fun. But yeah, I don't know if I'll watch the sequel eventually. We'll have to see. If I do, um I don't I don't know. I was gonna say maybe I'll try to put it on the same day as this, but I'm like pre-recording not I'm used to pre-recording months in advance, so I'm thinking like, oh, it's fine. I got plenty of time if I want to like go and watch it and go to my aunt's or something. And I'm like, wait, I'm only recording this like a few weeks out or something. That's not gonna work. But maybe you'll get it eventually. Maybe you won't. You might just get it like out of the blue of like, hey, we're talking about Jungle Book too. But like, this is why I make my movie playlist of like all the movies I've talked about. So that way, if like I talk about a sequel eventually or whatever, or a remake or something, you can go back to the original. I don't know if you guys use it. It's helpful for me anyway, because it like actually helps me keep track of which movies have I talked about and which ones I haven't. Um, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna talk any more 60s Disney movies for a bit. I think I'm gonna go on to what were the other reviews I had to do? I don't remember, and I'm not gonna say the titles yet because you'll see when they pop up. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go play something. Oh yeah, that's why the mouse isn't moving. I'm using a different computer because I want to play some games. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye bye.